in your situation. Not only is nobody immune to depression, but the second thing is this. And listen to me when I say this. You are not alone in your depression. You are not alone in your depression. You know, our default position as strugglers, as people who walk through this life, is to think that God is just mad at us. To think that God is simply tolerating us. And I think that this is intensified by those of us who walk through depression. I mean, we come to church and we hear people talk about the joy of the Lord and how happy they are because of Jesus, and then we walk in here and like, we want to have joy. We want to be happy. But it's like everywhere we walk, that little cloud, it just follows us. Like I try to go here and it's there, and then I try to go here and it's here. And I think that we assume that because we are sad, because we are depressed, and because we are upset, I think that we assume that we are broken. I think that we assume that we are somehow living in sin. So what do? Straighten our tie. We put on our mask. We hide the pain. We hide the reality of what's actually going on inside of us. All in an effort to just save face to those who are around us. And the worst part is that we don't just do that at school. We do that here. We do that at church. We walk into a small group on a Sunday morning and our leader says, hey, how's it going? How's everything in your life? Good. And I laughed this past Sunday. I was walking through the hallway and I passed this guy. He's like an older guy. He's probably in his 30s or 40s. And I walked by him and I said, hey, thanks for coming this morning, right? And I could no longer, I was like barely even getting like this morning out of my mouth when he says, yeah, I'm doing great. Like, bro, didn't even ask you how you were doing. But like hit me like, he just had a line. I'm great, I'm good, I'm fine. Everything's going great, I'm doing good, I'm doing fine. Why? Because I think that's the default position of a lot of us. Especially those of us who struggle with depression. We walk into places and spaces even like this and assume that we cannot actually be ourselves. We cannot actually be honest about our struggle. Why? Because if we do, it will cause us to be alone. No one's going to want to be around you. God's not going to use you. But can I tell you that nothing could be further from the truth? I mean, look at our story again. God confronts Elijah in his depression. I mean, Elijah's depressed. He tells God he wants him to kill him. He's suicidal. He doesn't want to live anymore. And God says to Elijah, go out and stand on the mountain in the Lord's presence. So Elijah goes on the mountain, and he stands there. There's a wind. Massive wind that goes by. But God's not in the wind. There's a massive earthquake that happens, right? I'm not going to make that noise. God's not in the earthquake. A fire roars by. God's not in the fire. There's a whisper. Why do you think God chose to speak in a whisper? I think here's why. Fire, earthquake, massive wind are all depictions of God and his power in the Old Testament. There's wind and there's an earthquake on Mount Sinai when Moses gets the law. There's fire that comes from a bush when Moses sees and speaks to God in the bush. Like, those are all like consistent with God's power being revealed. Listen to me very closely. Elijah knew about God's power. He knew it in his head. He had experienced it one chapter prior in a showdown with the prophets of Baal. Listen to me. Elijah didn't need to know about God's power because he already knew about it. Elijah needed to feel God's love. And listen to me. You can only hear a whisper when you're close. You don't know what I'm saying because I'm whispering. We're not close enough for you to hear that. Why does God come in a whisper? Why not in a fire? Why not in a massive wind? Why not in an earthquake? Because Elijah did not need to be reminded of God's power. Elijah needed to be reminded that God was with him. And listen to me. Some of you in here tonight need to hear what I'm about to say. God is not mad at you in your depression. He is not mad at you. He wasn't mad at Elijah because he didn't meet Elijah with rules. He didn't meet Elijah with a fist that was shaking. He didn't meet Elijah with a finger that was pointing. He met Elijah with a whisper. And let me tell you something. You can't yell when you're whispering. You can't be angry over a whisper. God is not mad at you in your depression. But listen to me. God is with you. And not only is he with you, but he's suffering with you in your depression. I think some of y'all need to know that God is not mad at you in your depression. He's not upset with you. He's not shaking his head and rolling his eyes. He's with you. And not only is he with you, but he's with you and he's suffering with you in your depression. Let me explain, right? One of the great things about the gospel is that it tells us that God himself became incarnate. That's a fancy way of saying that God put skin and bones on. And because God put skin and bones on, God became a full human being in Jesus. And in Jesus, God experienced everything that me and you would ever experience in this life. There's a story in the book of John, just one little indication that I want to show you tonight, of Jesus, God himself, who experienced the same emotions that many of you experienced. Jesus' best friend, his name is Lazarus, has just died. And let me read you this interaction that Jesus has with Lazarus' sister. It says this. It says, when Jesus saw her crying, and the Jews who had come with her crying, he was angry in his spirit, and he was deeply moved. Where have you put him? He asked. Lord, they told him, come and see. And then the shortest verse of the entire Bible occurs next. It says, Jesus wept. You know, the Greek word that's translated was that he was greatly moved. It's a word that literally means like emotional shaking. It's like this right here. The word wept that is used is not a simple tear that is falling from your face or a sniffle. It's the drawn out, slobbering, snot running out of your nose, crying. What we encounter here is Jesus, the God of the universe in flesh, and he's an emotional wreck. He's an emotional wreck. And he's God. He's throbbing. He's sobbing. He's crying his eyes out. God himself knows what it's like to cry uncontrollably. And this is the God who is with you in your depression. It's not some concept. It's not some being that's far away. It's a God who literally is sitting right next to you. And as you're crying, he can literally put his hand on your shoulder and say, I know exactly what you feel like. How do I know that? Hebrews chapter 4, verse 15, it says this. It says that Jesus, our great high priest, is not one who is unable to sympathize with us in our weakness. It's not like Jesus doesn't understand, but look what it says. But we have a God who has been tested in every single way that we are, and yet he was without sin. It goes on to say, so therefore let us approach the throne of God with boldness. Why do we approach it with boldness? Because God himself has already gone on ahead and experienced every kind of heartache, every kind of trouble, every kind of sin that would come our way. He's walked through it. And the beauty is, he didn't sin in all of it. Listen to me, you are not alone in your depression. God is not mad at you. He is not mad at you. He's with you. And not only is he with you, guys, he's suffering with you in your depression. He can sympathize with you in your depression. He understands what you're walking through. Jesus knows your pain because Jesus experienced your pain. And now he's with you in your pain. He's not yelling. He's whispering. Why? Because he's close. Draw close to him. Because intimacy with God will cause you to hear more of Jesus' truth and less of the lies that depression speaks to you. That leads me to my last thing that we see in the story.